It's like incredibly official. Hey guys, all right, well today, Dave, Alfred, and I, Corey Grifford, we're going to be talking about how to make money in real estate. Hopefully you guys can learn a little bit from it. So, give me a second. Not working, Dave. All right, see, we didn't troubleshoot.
Hey, go back up.
There we go.
There we go. Just take some.
All right, so we're going to talk about planning for the future right on. So, as realtors, we're all self-employed. There is no employer-funded 401k, IRA, retirement plan, pension, any of that. We're all kind of out there fending for ourselves, and we kind of have to figure out a way to provide for our future. So there's many ways to do this. We can just save our money, throw it in a savings account, get a couple percent interest, and really just watch it grow. We can invest in stocks, bonds, Bitcoin, all that fun to the moon stuff. You can just work until you're 90 if that's what you're into. Or while you're all here today, you can try to invest in the industry they work in. So.
All right, so we're going to talk a lot about why invest in real estate. We're all realtors, so kind of have a foot in the door in the market. It's kind of a passive income. It's an appreciating asset. It's not tied to currency. Let's see. So there's a few basic types of real estate investment we're going to go over. There's flipping, there's buy and hold. We're going to talk a little bit about like wholesaling, hard money lending, that type of thing. First is the flipping, and we're trying to use kind of real examples that Corey and I have done. So these are photos of a house that we bought for the purpose of flipping. The pros are there is potential for a large sum of profit in a short amount of time. The cons are you have capital gains tax, you have short-term capital gains tax most of the time. It's very labor intensive, and once it's done, it's done. Once you sell it, you've got your money, and the whole thing is kind of over. There's also a little bit more risk in flipping because you're really you're banking a lot of money on, selling it at the end, and if it doesn't sell, maybe in trouble. So here's kind of an example of this house that we've got these pictures of. We sold it for $412. We bought it at an auction for $153. We had renovations of $180 in it, closing costs of commissions and taxes and what else of $13, and a gross profit of $64. So that's flipping.
And what time frame? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It took 8 months.
So that's for the overall purchase price of reno, and how long it took. The bottom line gross profit wasn't nearly as great as we would have liked. I mean, we've done others that have, had at least that, if not more, and had taken a quarter of the rent.
When we bought it, we thought we would put $85,000 into it for renovations, and we sell for $375.
Okay.
And so the market went up really high, and so did renovations.
But as we got into it, we quickly determined it was going to take a lot more. I mean, because you look at any kind of investment and renovation, and at least for us at that time, we had never done a renovation that had taken more than $100,000. So in our eyes, like $100,000 was a lot. Like it was going to get us as far as we needed to go, and we just did a lot of this. And really, I think we did a huge service to the neighborhood. I mean, it's practically a holding house. I mean, we ended up rebuilding, I'd say 80% of it.
We bought it before we saw it.
Right. So at auction, we
had not
actually seen. And we were the only people that had been on it. But we love that house. That's literally my favorite project we've ever. All right. So it is taking just a second for Dave's computer to switch to the next slide. There we go. All right, wholesaling. So I'm assuming everybody's probably heard of wholesaling before. So you as a realtor are probably not going to wholesale. However, it's good to know you physically can't. there are rules and laws against it as a realtor. Because technically what wholesaling is brokeraging a deal between a buyer of a house and or a seller of a house and a buyer of a house, kind of like a realtor, and they are not acting as a realtor. So they're just pretty much pocketing an assignment fee. Essentially, they are flipping contracts. So what they'll go out and do, they'll go out and market, canvas a neighborhood, and pretty much try to find people who are, I mean, I don't want to say desperate, but they're looking to sell their house a non-conventional way, usually not using a realtor. And usually that will include, you know, death, divorce, hoarding situations. I mean, just a lot of situations that could potentially cause the owner of the house not to want a bunch of people walking through, not to want to have photos taken of their home, things like that. So they'll call these wholesalers that have sent them, you know, these little flyers in the mail, or, you know, you see the signs on the side of the highway that say, you know, we buy houses cash, and pretty much they'll call them and they'll either get it under contract. If they do, usually that's as much of any risk that the wholesaler will have in it. So really, the wholesaler will then take that contract they have with the seller. They'll have you know, a certain amount of time that they'll go out and they'll market it to, you know, a small group of investors that they know, find somebody that wants to buy it, usually for a little bit of a margin of profit. So they'll add, you know, 10, 15, 20,000 to the price that they have it under contract for, sell it to an investor, and pretty much they'll just go to closing and cash a check. So as you can see here, the pros and cons, there's very little, if any, risk in the deal. You don't need any money to do it, although sometimes a double closing is necessary for whatever situation they're in. And that's pretty much where they would actually have to close on the property, and then they would almost walk to the next room at the closing attorney's office and sell it to the investor. And it's a very short profit. So pretty much you get your money in a very short period of time, pretty much, you know, usually the contract timeline, so 30, 60 days, if not less. Cons, there's a huge short-term capital gains tax that is pretty much attributed to every profit that's being made in this line of investing. It's very labor and effort demanding. It's not passive. So these wholesalers that are getting out there and actually making a lot of these deals happen. We know several of them, and they're spending 15. They're going out and looking at several houses a day, trying to make those deals happen. They're, you know, pretty much in a very competitive market because since there is so little bar of entry required to get into it, there are a lot of people that are trying to do it, so there's a lot of competition. And so once it sells, it is pretty much finished making money. So it's not a passive or continuing income. So, are there any questions on that? That's probably something I should mention. If you have any questions, just speak up and we'll answer them right then.
Yep, no questions that I see right now, but if someone types anything up, I will sure let you guys know. And if you have any questions, just type it in the chat.
Okay, if you want.
Yeah, and so here's just a quick little example of how that works. So for example, a wholesaler will find a house with a seller and get it under contract for $250,000. It has to be an assignable contract, which is pretty much the linchpin of this entire idea. It's very important. So they'll go find the investor, an investor that's willing to pay $260 for it. They'll go to the closing, and the wholesaler will profit the difference, that margin of $10,000. So boom, boom, boom. Very straightforward. That's why it is so lucrative, and a lot of people make quite a lot of money.
Okay, so the third one we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth is buy and hold. This series is supposed to kind of be tailored to us as agents and how we can make money in real estate, aside from just, you know, buying and selling with clients. So buy and hold is a great long-term strategy. There are 4 streams of income. Most of the time people just think about the cash flow, the monthly cash flow that you get. But we're going to go into a little detail about the others and how it actually makes a really big difference. And if you can kind of utilize this, even if you can buy one every couple of years, how down the road it's really going to make a big difference in your net worth and your financial situation. So the pros, there are 4 streams of income we're going to talk about. As an investor, you're able to keep the asset, which, as you know, over the last few years, if you can hold on to an asset that's appreciating like they've been, that's good. You have a more predictable monthly income. So if you are wanting to scale up, you can kind of gauge your monthly income a little bit better than if you were to flip or wholesale. Cons are it's a slow drip. So this really is a long-term strategy. Whereas opposed to wholesaling, you're going to make a big amount of cash quick. Flipping, you're going to make a larger amount of cash quick. And you're also becoming a landlord, unless you're going to hire out property management, which you certainly can do. All that comes with being a property owner and a landlord. So let's skip this one. So I'm going to talk about the 4 streams of income. The first one is cash flow. That's your monthly rental income minus your monthly expenses. The second is your debt reduction. So every month, you got a mortgage. A portion of that mortgage goes to the principal amount. So that's, if you're looking at your net worth personal finance spreadsheet every month, that would go down by the principal amount, or your net worth would go up rather by the principal amount. Tax savings, you got your mortgage interest deduction, you have your depreciation over 27.5 years, which the IRS gives you to kind of depreciate the assets. And then you have appreciation, generally 3 to 5% annually. Of course, lately it's been a lot more than that. But that's kind of going over this, that's what we're going to use. So the first one is cash flow. We're going to give an example. Now we're trying to give you real numbers. So this is a single family home that Corey and I have as a rental in our portfolio right now.
Actually bought it last year, so I mean, in a height of all these prices being crazy, still able to find some deals.
Yeah, it did need a little bit of work when we got it. So this is all after we have it ready to go. So it rents for $14.90 a month. The mortgage is $1037. That's based on principal amount of $195,500 on the mortgage.
25.
That's 25-year AM, which is what you're going to get on commercial rates. And we have a good relationship with the lender, so we are able to get 85%. So put 15% down on this loan. The taxes are about $165 a month. Insurance is about $80 a month. So our total expenses is $1282. So, and for this purpose, I took out any capital X and maintenance. You will have that, but for this, we're just going to leave that alone. Gross profit 208. If you take 30% of taxes out, that's a net profit of 146. And so, for all these examples, we're going to kind of work with 30% tax rate. The next one. And so, a lot of times people think, okay, that's the only thing to consider. So you're like, well, I don't want to buy this house and be a landlord and have all these issues to make $146 a month.
Which insurance are you talking about there?
That's just property insurance.
So not mortgage insurance.
No,
Okay.
That's not mortgage insurance. So debt reduction. This is real simple. Here's your mortgage payment. Here's the interest and principal. So every month there's $675. So already that kind of swamps what you're making. In monthly cash flow. Go ahead. And then, so here's your tax savings. You got your mortgage interest deduction. So on this example, we have $380 a month in interest. And then you have 4560 a year. So that's a monthly savings of 114. And then you have your depreciation. So by the time we put the property in service, that means after we fixed it up, we kind of did some renovations. So we put it in service, according to the IRS, is just kind of when you start, after you buy the asset, when you start to rent it. So they have $230,000 value, depreciated over 27.5. That's $209 a month in tax savings.
Do you hold the property in an LLC or in an individual name, and which one's more tax beneficial?
It does, I mean, tax wise, it doesn't make a difference because the LLC is gonna pass through to whoever is the owner of the LLC.
And it depends also like the different like types of LLCs that are out there. I mean, ours are sole proprietorship and partnerships. It's just usually pass through. And there are obviously a lot of other different ways you can set it up that, you know, may be done a little differently, but at least for ours, it's always just pass through to our own personal use after it's all. Second. But I mean, as you can start to see, that bottom line cash flow number isn't the number. As soon as this goes, you'll actually see the full roll up.
Yeah, so here's your actual realization. This is before appreciation, so it can be more subjective. But you have your monthly cash flow, your debt deduction, your tax savings. So really, if you want to look at your overall net worth, it's going up 1147 every month.
And that's all paid for by the tenants, they're paying.
Right.
So,
Right. And then this last, this is the appreciation, and this is the fun one. Say you hold this, say you buy a house, we hold this house for 25 years, and this is just at 3%, appreciation year over year. You see in 25 years, this $230,000 house will be worth $481. So you have $250,000 total appreciation. You take that over the 25 years, it's $839 a month that is appreciated. So if you add all that up, you're looking at nearly $2,000 a month that over the lifetime of this property that your net worth will go up. And that's really cool considering you're only renting it for $14.90. So, you know, if you factor in all of these different streams of revenue, you're actually making more every month than you're even renting it for.
Did
So-
you calculate the appreciation and rental amounts?
What do you mean by?
Right, over the years.
No, I mean, that's assuming it stays, you know, that's assuming it stays like it is, and that's a good point. I mean, your rent is only gonna go up, your debt's gonna go down. I mean, you know, 10 years in, 15 years in, whatever, you could refinance to make your payment lower, your cash flow is higher. Usually, when you start to put it in service, usually that's as bad as it's gonna get, because that's when you have the most debt leverage on it. That's when you're gonna get, in theory, the lowest amount of rent. So, you know, this should be conservative.
but it's a good way to see that, you know, that bottom line cash flow numbers, you know, not all of it.
Yeah, and then that's just one in-house. So, I mean, you know, it's $23,000. You know, you can see how you can sort of strategize this. If you bought one a year, one every 2 years, and you have a retirement plan of 25 years in the future, you know, in 25 years from now, you start selling one off every year and they're worth $500,000. You know, it's an easy way to kind of make a lot of money long term.
Slow drip.
Yeah, slow drip. So next will be. It's gonna be you. All right.
Strategy.
So this is the strategy of kind of how to scale up and kind of go from one to multiple houses. So BRRRR is the acronym, you know, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat.
Essentially a way for you to recycle the money that you have to be able to, you know, put into a property, get it in service,
And then
refinance your money back out.
leverage that equity against another property and then just repeat. And these are actually properties that we have in our portfolio, kind of how one led to another, and we've kind of been able to scale up using essentially just the equity that's in the portfolio. So we're going to do it. I'm going to talk a little bit about an example of the BRRRR strategy. So just 1 second. Okay, so you purchase a home that needs some TLC, and this is important. You have to have home. It doesn't necessarily have to have TLC, but you have to be buying equity into the home. That's the only way this really works. But and a lot of times that is, the TLC, it needs work situation. Little sweat equity. So you buy a house, similar to like if you were gonna flip one. You make the necessary repairs and renovations. And then that's the renovate section, but instead of selling it, then you hold it, we find a tenant to lease it up. And now with a newly renovated house, you should be able to aim for the top tier rent price of the area, which is good. And now you have a leased property that you can take. Newly renovated, leased up property, you can take to a bank and say, hey, here's this house, here's what I'm getting for it. And you refinance the property. This is the most important part of the whole process. So it's good to build good relationships with lenders and understanding the refinance sort of portion. And on refis, it's different than if you were going to sell it, because the bank, when you get a loan for a property that you are buying, bank has to go off of one of two things, either the purchase price or the appraisal. If during a refi, there is no purchase price because it's a refinance. And so they have to go over off the appraisal. And so, you renovate this house, hopefully the appraisal is much higher. So if you, in this example, you purchase a house for 150, you put 50,000 in it. Maybe it's worth 250, making the loan amount 200, because that's 80%. Then now the investor has the original 200,000 back. They invest, between 50 and the 150, and so they essentially own the property. It's cash flowing, and they don't have any of their own money in the deal.
But they've generated an additional $50,000 to their bottom line or their finance.
And so you can kind of think about this strategy working with, how you can build wealth, as we talked about with the buy and hold examples. If you could do this and pull all your money out, there's no reason why you couldn't do this time after time, once a year, once every 2 years. If you can buy it right and you can force some equity, then it's a good strategy. And maybe you don't get all your money out, but maybe instead of having to put 20% down, you end up putting 5% down. It's also maybe you don't get all your money out, but you have to leave 10,000 in the deal. Okay, well you still making good money and making a return. And it's just a way to buy single family rental homes and not having to come up with 20% down time after time.
At some point, you run out of money.
Some point you run out.
All right, hard money lending. This is kind of what many people in kind of the real estate investing arena look to be kind of almost the pinnacle, because you now have enough money. It's people who have large sums of cash that then will loan to other investors when, say, that other investor can't necessarily go out to a conventional bank and get a loan for a house that needs to be renovated, or it is a real quick flip or something like that. So mainly these individuals will look at the deal versus a credit score. So they will actually go out and look at how bad the property is, look at its potential, look at how much work it needs, and be able to judge for themselves if it's a good or a bad deal. So they tend to be able to demand around 10 to 12% interest. So, if you think about that, if you have $100,000 just sitting in your bank account that you can go loan out to someone, they're going to give you roughly, what is that?
82.
Let's say $120,000 is what they want to do. So you're going to get $10,000 a month back in why am I doing this wrong?
It's usually also interest only, and so that's a good. It's lower, it's higher interest rates, but it's not amortized. And so a lot of times you can get through have lower payments, overall, but that principal amount doesn't go down. So for example, that house we held and that we flipped, we held that for 8 months on hard money, 10%. We had to pay a point. And so I don't know, I think we spent
I think it's like 13.
$13,000, $15,000 just to the hard money lender to finance the deal. And so you think from their perspective, these people usually have a lot of money, would have access to a lot of money. And if they've got a bank that will give them a personal loan for $3 million at 4%, and then they turn around and they loan it at 10% or 12%, you see how they can make hundreds of thousands a year extremely passively.
So that's all they make though, is their interest.
Yeah.
They don't want to get a PC.
No, they make, yeah.
No, and whenever that specific property sells or whenever the deal's over, they get their principal.
Yeah, now if they foreclosed on it, if someone missed a payment, so they do put a lien on it, and they're gonna be in first position, they're not gonna miss second position or anything like that. So if they have to foreclose, they'll take the property. And usually these hard money lenders are well connected. So if they do have to take property, they've got other investors they can then sell it to or get involved in the deal or however it may be.
And so as a side note to that, because they technically are putting a loan or a lien on the property, it makes this an incredibly kind of risk averse strategy for them because they, if they don't get paid, they get the house back. So usually they've already done their due diligence, have seen the potential in the house. And
They've done their due diligence or they have a good relationship with the investor. And most of the time, it's the latter. I mean, most of the time, it's the hard money lender knows the investors, they've worked before, and if an investor will call them up, say, I need $250,000 for this, and they'll say yes. And the advantage is when you get all these investment offers on your own listings and they're all cash, and like, where is all this cash coming from? A lot of times it's coming from this. A lot of times cash is just being pulled from a very liquid, place, whether it's a hard money lender or a HELOC or whatever it is. So anyway, we just wanted to touch a little bit on hard money lending, because if you're thinking, okay, well, it'd be nice to do this burst strategy and this rental strategy, but I don't have 200,000. Well, I mean, there are hard money lenders. There's ways that you can get it unconventionally, not through a bank that is going to require, all the loan documentation and everything to go along with that. Yeah.
All right, so just kind of bring it full circle. As a realtor, being in the industry every single day, there are quite a few tactical advantages you have when it comes to making money in real estate. First, and probably the biggest is you have that MLS access. You can get out and run your own comps. You can see things that hit the market as soon as they hit it. You can set your own searches up to be able to look exactly for what you want to look for. You have access to the PVA, which isn't the craziest thing for somebody who's not a realtor to get, but because that comes with our LR membership, it's an incredibly valuable tool just to be able to get in there, see what other things have sold. See what their selling property's worth, how big it is, all that good stuff. While you're in the industry of real estate, you're making these personal relationships with other realtors, with investors, with people that are seeing it every single day. So a lot of times, a good lead can come through one of those. A banker is a great personal relationship that would be a awesome tactical advantage to be able to use when making money in real estate. And then plus commissions, which I was not sure.
Well, you just get, I mean, it's just something to consider. I mean, if you're buying a house that's on the market for 200,000, you're going to be getting,
at least a 3%.
Yeah, 3% commission. So you have a little bit of advantage with that as well, if you can apply it to your offer.
Yep. So beyond that is all we have. So if you have any questions, we'll definitely field those. If not, it's been fun.
Have some on everybody. Is there a Facebook group that hard money lending has a group too, where you can?
There is a cesspool of people
Okay.
known as the Bluegrass Investors Group. That would be.
So it's not just hard money lenders. It's pretty much everyone under the sun. But a lot of hard money lenders are in that specific group, and offer their services a lot of times. for all these new investors?
We have good, Corey and I have good relationships with a few, so if you do, if you're interested, we have worked with several, wholesalers, hard money lenders, commercial bankers, and we'd be happy to, help any way we can with that. So,
All right, guys.
that's,
That's all we got.
All right.
that's
Yeah.
it.
I'm not seeing any questions on here right now.
We answered them all.
Yeah. Left no
Just
stone.
good. All right, gentlemen. Well, that was a great class. I appreciate it. I don't see any questions on here, but if you will send me that presentation, everyone that wants it, that's on here, I will send you that presentation so you can take a look at it.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
And